Hey, welcome back to the vlog. I hope your week is going well and that you had a great weekend. Easter weekend is coming up, so hopefully you have some fun plans set up for that long weekend. This past weekend was kind of fun in that there were a couple of comics related things going on. That's why I'm using this background. I'm going to be doing a comics haul for this installment of the vlog. So there was the Antiques and Memorabilia show that was here at the Sportsplex on Sunday, and while I was out checking that out, I also checked out a nearby antiques shop that I had actually never gone to before, and it was really cool to check out. They were having a big 50% off sale this past weekend, so I couldn't resist when I saw that they had boxes of comics. I hadn't realized that they actually had stacks of comics on top of boxes of comics with more stacks of comics stuffed in behind those boxes. So it was a little bit of a dig, but it was definitely fun going through the stuff that they had there. So I guess I'll just get right to it. It's a fairly good haul that I'm going to be spotlighting here. The first issue that I have is Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, Volume 1, Number 5. Beautiful Gil Kane cover. And if you're unaware, Doc Savage is a fairly old pulp magazine character created by Lester Dent in the 30s. There was a Doc Savage radio program. There were a number of books that were published. And then in the 70s, Marvel picked up the character and actually did two series, one in the 70s that ran from 72 to 74, as well as in the 80s with a secondary 8-issue series. Next comic from DC National Comics is The Spectre, Volume 1, Number 7. Just a beautiful cover there. Just gorgeous. Well-worn comic from 1968, Silver Age. Just gorgeous. Jerry Siegel created the Spectre back in 1940. And of course, Jerry Siegel was a co-creator of Superman, along with Joe Shuster, who was from Toronto. There were 10 issues in this series that ran from 1967 to 1969. The artwork by Jerry Grandinetti. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Next in the stack is a well-worn Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, and Goofy. And this is actually a reprint from a 1964 comic. And the hilarious thing about this I found when I looked it up online and was trying to find out more about the comic was that in the original issue, the cover was the mirror image of this particular cover with different color work done on it. But they just reused the old cover as well. So that's Mickey Mouse and Goofy, number 146 from 1973. Cover and artwork by Paul Murray. And yeah, it was a reprint of Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse that was originally published in 1964. And from the Canadian contingent, we've got Volume 1, Number 7 of Captain Canuck. There were 15 issues of the Volume 1 series published from the late 70s through on and off until I believe issue 15 was published in 2004. Obviously this was Richard Cumley's baby. Gorgeous George Freeman cover. Awesome artwork inside. Issue 7 was published in 1979. Just beautiful artwork inside. Very dynamic, and definitely a lot of fun to be able to get another issue in this iconic Canadian comic book series. So next up I have 6 books in a 5-issue series that I believe was only available in Canada, published by Marvel. and it's Amazing Spider-Man. It came out in the 1990s. All of the issues were set in various locations in Canada. A Todd McFarlane cover for the first issue of this 5-issue series. The first one being Winnipeg, even though this kid is wearing an Edmonton Oilers jersey here. The second issue was set in Fredericton on the East Coast. The third issue was set in Toronto. You can see a Blue Jays t-shirt on that kid. And this issue also featured Ghost Rider. Number 4 was set in, I don't know. Well, obviously Calgary, right? And then the 5th issue was set in Montreal. And as I said, I had 6 issues of this book, and that's because the book was actually printed in both English and French, which is pretty cool. So I was happy to find those and to share them with you. And speaking of very happy, I was also able to find some really cool French reprints of Marvel Comics. So I've got Lieutenant Spider-Man, et voici Doctor Strange, along the bottom there. Beautiful artwork. And really what they did is they just used the same artwork as the original English version. But the entire book is printed in French. The Heritage Editions have reprinted in black and white, which is definitely a huge treat considering with this issue of Spider-Man, for instance, the artwork was done by John Romita Sr., and so you can truly see just the beautiful, beautiful graphic artwork without the sometimes crappy 4-color registration that would detract from just his gorgeous artistry throughout. And I actually just stumbled onto these years and years ago when I was at a comic book store across the river in Gatineau, and was going through comics and noticed that they had a French comic section. And of course my immediate reaction was, oh, okay, cool, Asterix. And so I was going through it, and I'm finding X-Men and Iron Man, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and I found an issue that I already had in English but had been reprinted by Heritage Editions in French, and that got me hooked. I picked up that issue. I also picked up a couple of other issues. There's actually one on the wall that I picked up years ago of an Iron Man comic. So anyone who's watched the reaction videos that I've done in the past will probably notice that every so often I've included a French language Marvel comic. And last but not least, and probably what I'm going to be using for the thumbnail, is the Canadian Captain America and the Falcon. Beautiful artwork by Sal Buscema. And again, like I said, they just used the same artwork as was used in the American comic for both the cover and the internal artwork. Just gorgeous artwork on this. And so Captain America and Falcon number 14, published in 1972. It's the reprint of Captain America issue 154 that was published the same year. And a secondary story in this particular issue is a Stan Lee, Steve Ditko story from Tales to Astonish number 37, which was published originally in 1962. So that's all of the highlights from this recent haul that I wanted to show off. There are other comics. I may bring them out with the next haul, but I don't like the video to be too long. And I will definitely be editing this because I've been stumbling over my words the whole time I've been shooting this, which is awesome in post-production. But I hope you enjoyed this haul. Let me know what you think of any of these comics, if you have any more info to share about any of the comics that I've shown you. And thanks again for checking out the vlog, and until next time, cheers.